Welcome to the Jello Jiggling podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Ward, and the Lakers won two straight. Back-to-back set against the Phoenix Suns and San Antonio Spurs at Crypto. A much-needed 2 wins in a row after a somewhat brutal stretch there. The Denver game was promising, especially without Luka and Austin Reaves just going nuts for 37 points, and the Connect had 32 or 31, 32. But I think this was kind of needed. The one thing that impresses me the most about these kind of wins is these are the kind of games that they have been losing over the last few years. Games that they should win. They should come in knowing that they're going to win and stomp their opponent. And that's what they did. Both games. I mean, both games didn't even seem like much of a challenge for this team. Tonight, San Antonio has no incentive to win. So there's no Wemby. They're assuming the tank race in the West. So I'm not kind of surprised that this kind of effort came from them. They're a physical team. I'll give them that much, which got shown when Vando and Jeremy Sochan got into it. I think that's how you say his last name. What I loved about that, I mean, they both got ejected for essentially a shoving match, which kind of drives me nuts as a guy that grew up in the 90s and in the early 2000s. Physical play is like outlawed now, like completely. Like they're not allowed to touch each other, not allowed to get physical in any way. And I mean, Sochan, he's got the ball. He's on offense. He's backing down Vando. Vando's playing, physical defense as he tends to do, and Sochan didn't like it at all. And he ends up Vando ended up like fouling him, and then Sochan just throws the ball at his thigh or whatever. And Vando had, guys usually these days they like act like they're going to be tough, like they'll get in your face, but then they'll back up and they'll just start talking a little bit louder as they back up, like they're going to do something and they won't do anything. Complete opposite for Vando. He just went straight into his face and pushed him. One of the hardest shoves I've seen in an NBA, fight. I guess that's what they call it these days, but it's like a glorified shoving match. And they both got booted. And it took the refs like a good 5 minutes to figure out whether or not to eject these guys. So ridiculous these days. I mean, don't they understand that kind of heightens the level of the game? It makes it more entertaining. It makes both teams want to beat the crap out of each other more, not just physically, in a fight, but like, to win the game. I think it just hurts the product in itself. That's besides the point. It's just a little tangent, but so I'm getting texts from Daniel Starkan because he's covering the post game. Yeah, so I didn't like that, but I loved Vando's fire. I think the cool thing about this team right now is they've got a lot of these kind of tougher dudes, right? Like the guys are not going to take any crap anymore. Vando's definitely one of them. I'd say Goodwin's another one, and Trey Jemison's on top of that. And then Luka's got some fire to him too. I will admit, Luka complains too much. That's definitely a knock on him, but for what he gives you, I take every bit of it. Whatever. Go ahead, complain a little bit, more than you should. Whatever. That doesn't really piss me off that much, but it's a little annoying, but it's not that bad. It'd be bad if we were lose. It was losses, one after the other. And Luka's clearly to blame. I mean, this was not a typical Luka game. It wasn't great for him because he tends to have these nights, at least, right now, where he's like one night he's just super hot, he just torching the Nets. And then the next night, like what was it? Milwaukee when he went off for 45? I think that was the game. Yeah. And then Reaves went off against Denver. Yeah, Luka didn't shoot well at all. 5 for 20, 1 for 7 from deep. But what I like about what Luka brings to the table, which is fairly obvious, I guess, but at the same time, when you see it in real time and you see the impact it has on everyone, including the coaching staff, the players, I mean, the fans, everybody, he creates so much space. It's insane. I mean, LeBron used to create a lot of space, and as the years have gone by, not as much. But this guy draws defenders like it's like a moth to flame. Like he's it's incredible to me. there's a few times where there's been a lot of times in the last few games where he'll drive into the lane, right, and he'll literally draw like 3 or 4 defenders, and everyone is open on the perimeter. And tonight you could see the benefit of that because guys were just getting wide open. Like wide open shots. These guys had all day to shoot, and had a clear path to do it. And so we got what 39.6% from deep. That's awesome, especially for this team. Who got most of these guys shot incredibly well from deep. I mean, Austin shot 13 threes, but he hit, was it 5? My screen's a little dim. Yeah, 5 for 13. You got 3 for 6 for Goodwin. Goodwin is another guy who's just coming around shooting the basketball. I mean, he's about as consistent as anybody on this team right now. Gabe Vincent too. What did Gabe have? He went 3 for 5 from deep. These guys are just taking all their opportunities and they're draining them. Even DFS, 4 for 8. It's just the distribution of the basketball is just insane. 34 assists. The turnovers were down somewhat this game, 9, opposed to when it's usually much higher. Look in comparison, 17 for San Antonio. But this was definitely like a kind of a tune-up game, a kind of get ready for what's coming. Because they got Denver on Thursday, so they got another day rest. Thankfully, it's in LA, and then Milwaukee right after that. So this is the end of that brutal, 3 sets of back-to-backs in a row, which I've said before, I've never seen before. This one, as I'm looking at the ESPN box score, says rescheduled from January 11th, so it's due to the wildfires in LA. So that's part of the reason why. But still, I'm still like. Well, didn't you put into account like what comes before it, when it comes after it? Like there was no better time to do this down the road. But at this point, that's besides the fact. They've got Denver, they got Milwaukee now. They got to focus on that. They have 42 wins now, which is impressive. Where are they at in the standings? Let's see. Hopefully this is updated. Yeah, it's updated because I think they were 5th before this game. So they're in 4th place right now. Memphis is right behind them. Golden State lost tonight to a Denver team that basically played no one. I think it was just like Aaron Gordon and that was it. Or maybe Michael Porter Jr. too. But there's no Murray, no Jokic, no Christian Braun. And they won. And Golden State's been red hot. They've won 8 of their last 10. So I mean that shows you how scary Denver is, right? Like they can win games like that. I know the Lakers took them to the limit the other day, but you saw in that end sequence, like that was the difference between the Lakers and Denver. But they didn't have Luka or LeBron either. So it's I think Wednesday is going to be very interesting. I think that'll be a game to circle. I don't know if Jokic is going to play. I think every team that has something invested in the playoffs, like they're going to the playoffs, is starting to rest guys periodically, right? Like I've said this in prior podcasts. I think you can just see the trends, right? And RotoWire, what I do every day is we're going through the injury reports like every hour, so we know everything up to the date, and you just see those trends every single day, right? Like, oh, I'm not surprised Jaylen Brown got ruled out again, or even Tatum, or now Jokic, who tends to play every damn game. Even Aaron Gordon is the guy that's usually resting on that team, not Murray and Jokic, which is kind of crazy if you think about it. They thought they can go in and win that game without those guys, and they did. So the West is just insane, though, man. Houston's won 7 straight. Now they're in the 2 spot. I think they're tied with Denver right now, so that could be a 2-game tie, which could change on Wednesday. And then Oklahoma City's locked up number 1 with 56 wins. They've already can't remember what that means. They put the Z on there. Doesn't even say. Oh no, it's an X. Okay, so clinch a playoff berth. No, it's not saying anything really. But they've got the 1 spot. Nobody's catching them. That's locked in. Unless they just start, just dropping games left and right. But even those guys are resting everybody. It's either Chet out or Shea. Alex Crusoe is like in and out every other day, but I think that is more like real injury related. But still, this is the stretch that we're going down here. And from what I think it was Shams said, was it today or yesterday that LeBron is expected to be out for another week? So obviously that's not ideal, but hopefully it is just another week. I think same goes for Rui. I mean, Rui was ruled out today. Yesterday was the day that he was basically reevaluated, as you'd say, and he's missed 2 more games. So don't know where that goes. Hopefully that's not too bad, and they're just managing this as best they can. Luckily, they got these guys that are stepping up, though. They've got the Gabe Vincents. They've got the, I know Vando hasn't been spectacular, but he's still a guy you can trust. Dorian Finney-Smith, played really well tonight. Excuse me. Jackson Hayes keeps, balling for, considering it's Jackson Hayes we're talking about. He only took 5 shot attempts today, but he ripped down 11 boards and got 9 points, 3 assists, 2 steals, and a block. That's all you can ask from a guy like that. I mean, he's doing what they're paying him to do, right? Like that's what they want. And the fact that they whiffed on Mark Williams, or like it wasn't a trade that they wanted to make happen. Ultimately, this is the best case scenario in a way. And he's had games where I'm like, holy crap, this guy, he's a legit dude. Like, I mean, he's not like, he's not a star or anything, but he keeps reminding me of JaVale McGee in 2020. He's not as good defensively as McGee. He's definitely not the shot blocker, but he's that lob threat, that constant lob threat. Because I gotta say, this Koloko, I mean, if they didn't need the big bodies, I think they would have waived him by now. I mean, he has been nothing short of awful, really. I mean, your only job is to be a lob threat. You can't catch the ball. I think he had 1 or 2 tonight. He finished with 4 point. Here we go. 9 minutes. Played 9 minutes off the bench. 9 minutes in a game where they were crushing the opponent, right? So, like, you would rather have him in there for extended minutes than Hayes, who's it's dealt with injuries over the past couple of weeks. But no. And then another DNP for Alex Len, another DNP for Cam Reddish, and Markieff Morris. So Markieff Morris is expected, but the other 2, I guess it's expected now too. I guess those 3 guys are completely out of the rotation unless injuries take hold, right? All the other guys that are barely seeing the floor. Bronny had 3 minutes. Shake Milton had 7, but that's because Goodwin and Gabe Vincent have been so consistent. Like Gabe Vincent had 28 off the bench, so he's basically playing starter minutes. And then he had 15 from Vanderbilt and Koloko just 9. So, and Connect with 20 off the bench, 20 minutes, and he scored 13 points. He had a so shooting night. I mean, couldn't really hit. He had 2 for 7 from deep, but they didn't really need it because they just got good all around performances from all the other guys. Like I said, Luka couldn't hit anything tonight, and he still had 21 points because he lived at the line, 10 for 13, 14 assists, 9 rebounds, 3 steals, which is becoming a trend with him. I don't know what he's averaging right now. I'm gonna check that out, but it's got to be getting up there. Reaves too, 2 steals. He has been perhaps one of the most impressive guys on the team lately. The last 4 games, he's got 30, 28, 37, and 28. And on top of those, most of those games, he's got high rebounds or dishing out assists and getting and snatching steals left and right. So I'm impressed all around. Whether or not they can still, contend with the top guys, the top, the OKCs, the Denvers, or whatever, I don't know. It remains to be seen. But when they play like this and they win the games that they're supposed to win, and it's a good all around performance, you're not just looking at 60, 70 points coming from Luka and Reaves or Luka or Reaves and Connect, then it's a good thing for the team. The team is coming together. I think they have a kind of playoff ready team with as it is. I mean, the biggest question mark is the big behind Hayes, right? There is no consistent big behind Hayes. Trey Jemison is good, physically, but he's not going to put any stats on the board that's going to like really, turn the table for the Lakers or win games here and there. But his physicality will cause problems. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, he's no Dwight Howard, right? But Dwight from 2020, remember when he gave Jokic all that trouble in the bubble? Like, I don't think I've seen anybody give Jokic that kind of trouble since then, right? That's the way to play him. You got to play physical. And if they end up matching up in the playoffs, they're going to need somebody to throw at him. I mean, Hayes will foul out fast, probably, if they got to lean on him. And that takes your lob threat away and changes the kind of the whole offensive scheme, So I don't. That's the tricky part. But hey, it could be way worse. We could be talking about multiple problems, and I honestly think that's the only real glaring one at the moment. Turnovers can be a problem at times, but when they're on a string like this and they're passing the ball like this and creating all that space, I'm not too worried about that, to be honest with you. I would be more worried about crashing the glass and dealing with bigs on other teams that are going to give you trouble. Jokic, Gordon, Aaron Gordon, Hartenstein, Chet Holmgren, guys like that. I mean, Chet is no physical beast or anything, but but he's still a guy who can cause you problems. So especially with protecting the rim. But yeah, this is a good sign. It's momentum in the right direction. Very curious to see what happens in the next two games in this back-to-back because schedule softens up after that. I believe it's not going to be insane like it has been. I think they have gone through the toughest stretch that they're going to go through for the rest of the way. I think we've only got 15 games left, which is insane when you think about it. That's going to fly by. Yeah, we're less than a month away from the end of the regular season, and then it gets crazy as you all know. But so they get okay. So after Milwaukee, you got Chicago. Then you got a 4-game road trip: Orlando, Indiana, Chicago, Memphis, which could be tough. Which is going to be tough. And then Houston, Golden State. Okay, so this is looking worse and worse the more I look at it. But like I said, these teams are resting a lot of guys. The guys that are trying to be 100% when the playoffs start. I mean, no team is ever 100%, but as close to that as they could possibly get. They're going to be resting guys. I mean, who knows when they face Golden State? Maybe Steph doesn't play or Jimmy Butler or both. Who knows? Same goes for Memphis and Houston, and they've got a 2-game set against Oklahoma City down the stretch. So the last 5 games of the season, they play Oklahoma City, Dallas, Houston, Portland. So obviously the OKC and Houston games are important. The Dallas one is going to be important just because for Luka's sake, right? And who knows if he even plays, right? Like at that point, I would say that the seeding is probably pretty set. I mean, if there's a difference in a game or two, and it makes sense for the Lakers to try to win that game, yeah, maybe he plays and drops, an insane 60, which would be so cool to watch because Dallas deserves it. But even AD, promising news with AD. I know that's a little off topic and he's no longer with the Lakers, but still, I still I root for that guy. I hope that guy has a good career the rest of the way because I think he's a good dude by all accounts. So I think he's practicing with the G League team. It sounds like he's ready to play. I mean, if I'm them, I'm asking him, hey, look, should we just shut you down? Is it worth doing this? Because I think they'll get in the play-in probably. Dallas, they're not that far out of it, but they're going to be a first-round exit. If they get to the first round. So I don't understand the point. But then there's pride, and AD probably wants to show the Mavs fans like, hey, look, I'm legit. You're getting a really good player here, so don't count me out. So these next 2 games, important. It's going to be interesting to see. Hopefully, Luka plays both of these games. Even if he doesn't, it seems like AR is just ready to take his place and do what he does. There's a few moves he had today. One crazy move he had in the paint where I was like, oh my God, that footwork looked like Luka. He was just changing direction. And I think he ended up getting fouled or something and didn't make the basket. But I was like, that looked familiar. But yeah, so what is that? 7 o'clock game on Wednesday, and then 7:30 the next night. Man, that's just rough. But this is gonna fly by, folks. It's gonna fly by. We're gonna be in postseason in no time. So just gotta kind of limp through this final stretch, get the game, get the wins that you can, get the best seed that you can, try to avoid the big boys in the first and second round. And go from there and try to get LeBron healthy, obviously. Hopefully he's comes back. So okay, so if he's missing a week, where we were Monday, say he comes back for the road trip, the 4-game road trip. Just thinking now though. Because they basically rested him for this entire road trip that just happened. So I don't know. We can't. There's the fact that they're very vague on that timeline is who knows. Obviously, it doesn't seem too serious. And the guy went and traveled up to Sacramento to watch Bryce win some championship game, right? And he was like jumping around and like looking all excited. So I don't think he's ailing that bad. I think he's ready to come back. He's just kind of slow rolling it a little bit. Which is whatever, 4 years old, all those miles. But well, until then, I will see you later.